You're singing. You're singing, and I've already started the recording. Welcome back to the List Night Podcast. Going to get right into it. No Modi this week. He is on his honeymoon, so it's going to be the original crew. Thomas Albert, Andrew Simon, Griffin Queen. We are doing historical figures that we think we could successfully replace. Before we get into each of any of our lists, we're going to try and give what our criteria for those lists were, because it's an interesting topic that we might not align on. Our order this week is going to go Andrew, then it's going to go me, and then it is going to go Thomas last. All of our fives, all of our fours, all of our threes, twos, ones, and then we will do recaps at the end. At the top of the show, you heard all the stuff about liking, commenting, subscribing, all that shit, so I'm not going to bother you with all that. But if you like this episode or you like any other episodes, make sure you share it with your friends. That'd be good. We're putting a lot of work into these, and we would love people to listen to them or to watch them. Andrew, historical figures that you think you could successfully replace. Kick us off.
Yeah, I mean, for my list, like, mine are all just historical figures in different aspects of society. And like, the way I think about it, it's like they had to have either made a big mistake that I would have not made, or what they're famous for is not actually that impressive. So like someone as normal and as unremarkable as myself could step in and nobody would notice a difference.
Okay, yeah, I like that criteria. That's good. All right.
So my number 5 is William Henry Harrison, the 9th president of the U.S. Because
you've got to be kidding me.
Is he on your list?
He's my number 5.
Well, let's call it. Let's try again next week.
You guys just want to do it at the same time then, or
then I'll let you like explain all the things that he did and didn't do. But to me, when I look at his Wikipedia page during his presidency section, it's basically inauguration and then death and funeral. So like all I'm saying is that I could last more than 32 days. I wouldn't get pneumonia and die that quickly, at least. I would, because it was a long time ago and everyone was sick all the time and died. But I wouldn't die that quickly.
Not just pneumonia, but also jaundice and septicemia, which is not something that I've ever heard of before. And I'm not positive that I'm pronouncing it correctly. But he had comorbidities, buddy.
But so, Andrew, is this you saying you think you could have won a presidential election?
Okay, so this is a good point, because I have a few picks on my list, including this one, where I'm not saying I could replace their entire life, but there is like from a certain point on or a certain time period of their life. So for this pick, for me, and Griffin, you may have a different answer. For me, it's just from when he was elected president until his death. I could replace him successfully. So 32 days, I could replace him successfully.
Look, I'm not going to push you back on this being your number 5. I think it's a great number 5. I think it actually might be the most perfect number 5, and I'll have more to say about that in the very near future.
Just go now.
Yeah.
Thomas, do you have any? I'll give my reasons, and then Thomas can tell us why we're wrong, because he likes to do that. Everything that you said, Andrew, good. Although my criteria was not necessarily I could replace them for like a day. It wasn't not that, but it was like I could be them for at least a little bit of time, and I could probably escape attention to a near. I guess I'm like genuinely going back. Yeah, I'm genuinely going back and replacing them.
Yeah.
No, but they also have to be, one of my criteria was they have to be dead. I mean, I think technically there are historical figures that we are living with now. I think we could all say that, but to us, they are not historical figures. They are current figures. I don't even know what you would call them. But I tried to also, and this is funny that this was our number 5 for both of us, I tried to also find criteria outside of just like this guy died so I could be him. That would look, I'll tell you, that I was like, I could be president for slightly over a month. That's a big thing. He was born in Virginia. I was born in Virginia. He served in the Ohio House of Representatives for a few years in the early 80s. I didn't do that, but truthfully, in the early 80s, Andrew, how hard could that have been? I don't think very hard. I think with our current knowledge, could have done that.
They also would have been like, this guy kind of looks like Abraham Lincoln.
Are we assuming that we have the knowledge
wasn't a thing yet, though? This is before Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, but like he was obviously like, they like that type of look.
Yeah, I mean, he would eventually become president. Just funnily enough, Abraham Lincoln not on my list, despite our appearances being similar. I put one of the things that I noted for this was that he defeated Martin Van Buren for president. Van Buren had served the previous term. The only reason that MVB was ever president was because he was on the heels of Andrew Jackson, and Andrew Jackson was such a terrible president that anybody would be a good replacement afterwards. That's why MVB was only a single-term president, died of pneumonia. Like I said, I could do that. And then his death apparently raised questions about presidential succession because they hadn't really thought of it prior to that point. And my note to myself was, I think my death eventually will raise a lot of questions too. So we have that in common.
Different question.
I could be that guy.
There's gonna be no conspiracy. Nobody's gonna question your death.
I understand why you guys
There's going to be a note.
picked him based off your criteria. But Griffin, you said something about like not being noticed. Like in your mind, would you become him? Like what's that show? Whatever it is, but
With the guy from Star Trek Enterprise where he jumps between bodies.
yeah,
Loop, whatever. They made
Doesn't
fun of
matter.
it in Always Sunny. What's it
Yeah.
called?
doesn't matter.
Don't steal my jump.
Doesn't matter. But you're saying you could become William Henry Harrison, let's say for a week, and get by without anyone being like, "This is an imposter."
Yeah, I think I could, particularly during his pneumonia period.
But Andrew, you're saying you could become William Henry Harrison and wear a jacket and not get cold at your inauguration and die.
He was also
2 days
kind of
later.
fat, so I'd have to stack on weight. But I mean, I imagine that I am jumping into his skin itself. He also, fun fact for you guys, and this is another reason why I think I would actually do better at this than Andrew would. So it's like kind of a better number 5 pick for me than it is for Andrew. He gave the longest inaugural speech of all time at 8,500 words. I can talk endlessly, and I often do talk endlessly, whereas Andrew has been renowned for growing tired of the sound of his own voice, and he likes to be a little bit of the strong silent type in a way that I don't.
But I feel like what you're saying is you could successfully go back and do what he did better than he did it, where Andrew's saying he could go back and not die. And
I'm not saying I
therefore
could
be
do it better. I'm saying I could at least maintain.
So you're saying you could go back and successfully repeat what he did
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
die 32
Yeah,
days
yeah.
to be a president.
But
Yeah,
I also believe that I could win the presidency in the mid 1800s. I'm going to be straight up about that. I'm pretty sure current Griffin back in the mid 1800s could win the presidency. I will stake my name to that.
Griffin, the difference is that you were saying that you could be William Henry Harrison, whereas I'm saying I could be a better 9th president of the United States than William Henry Harrison was.
Yes.
That's the
So
difference.
this is the difference in our criteria. In
Well-
my mind, I am creating a subterfuge of
An
some
actor
sort.
at that point. You're just
I'm
like,
replacing them.
I also have to imagine half your vocabulary wouldn't be understood if you went back.
Did you say that because I said subterfuge?
No, just in general. Like you say
Like-
trill a lot. You say
Trill.
pod. You know.
Don't
like-
all
say
your-
trill a
oh,
lot.
you're Gen Z.
There are people in our friend group say trill about me because I used it 13 years ago.
I don't know.
I get.
But I will give you that you look much more like a dying president in his late 60s, but back then probably felt like closer to 100 than I do.
Can we clarify for 1 second? If any of us were to go back in time, our word choice would be problematic because we would not know the weird racial and homophobic slurs that they used at the time, and we would not fit in gentlemanly company. I know that about us.
Okay.
It's just, it's the reality.
I-
They said messed up shit back then. That was during the Trail of Tears era.
I understand your guys' pick because you guys did the same pick, super original. It makes sense for both your criteria as they're clearly different. But
Last thing I'll say on this, because I don't want to talk about William Henry Harrison anymore.
Yeah.
It's gone on for
We're
way
talking about him longer than he was president.
Exactly. But I will say, you're talking about Martin Van Buren. MVB should have been his nickname. I don't know why that didn't catch on. That's the best 3 initials you could have, and he didn't go by MVB. Dumb.
because
I mean, he might have.
MVP wasn't a thing yet.
I know,
He
but
might have gone by MVP. We don't know that he didn't do that.
True. All right. My number 5, honestly, it's pretty boring. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And my criteria, I didn't specifically say they had to be dead, but all mine are. But my thought was not necessarily to replace them for their entire life, but maybe after a certain point, for this one in particular, I would like to, just for the fun of it, I'd like to replace William Shakespeare after he wrote all his plays because he was on top of the world. And I mean, what could he not do at that point? A most famous person. I mean, I know Griffin would want to come back and fight me because he wants to fight William Shakespeare. But if you're the playwright at the time of playwrights, I mean,
So I like this pick. I really do. And I did think about William Shakespeare, although I was like, I can't use William Shakespeare on a list of people that I want to fight and then use it on a list of people that I think I successfully replaced. Like, there's just like too much overlap there, and there's a lot of like weird overlap there. It's a good pick. There is a little bit of dispute on whether William Shakespeare was one individual, which may come up more over your list. That actually might make it an easier replacement for you. If
all 5 of my picks are William Shakespeare.
because they're all different people pretending to be William Shakespeare. Yeah, I got there. I needed a second, but I got there. Yeah, I mean, look, I like the pick. If he was somebody that was a talented writer and playwright, and even if he had already created all of his most famous works, he had to then continue to like portray himself as a successful artistic person in high society. I'm not positive that you would have thrived at that.
I could lie my way through that.
Sure. Yeah. Everyone knows that's one of your talents. You're the gaslight guy. That's what people say about you. Look, it's a good pick. And I'm glad that I didn't choose it. I don't love that I'm going to go back and have to fight you, though, in our weird time travel list night cinematic universe.
It's all one universe. The list night.
Yeah.
The list night universe is all connected.
The list night and Just Friends and Rat Race and
Just
and
wait for
everything
list
else.
night endgame. I disagree with you. I think this is a bad pick, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I just am dying at the idea of Thomas trying to pretend to be William Shakespeare and like to talk like him or to.
I wouldn't be pretending. I would be.
But then, okay, but basically what you're saying is after he's already done everything he did, which he's known for, so basically you just think you could be a successful, rich and famous person who doesn't have to do anything. Like you have all the money, you have all the fame, and you're just sitting around retired. And so you could have picked anyone who's famous and just said like, after they did what they did, then I could lay around their house and like be famous.
Yes, but in this, like, it's Shakespeare. Like even back then, he was a big deal. So yeah, you're right. I could have picked any
Or she.
He was a person. We're becoming too conspiracy on this.
This isn't a conspiracy. No, this is a genuine thing.
I think no, it can be genuine and be a conspiracy.
Okay,
theory-
sure. William Shakespeare's works are believed to have been written by multiple people of his time period, more likely than not.
Well, if that's the case, then it's an even worse pick because it takes a lot of ability to be able to develop this fraud that, like, you know, that you stole all these other writers' work.
Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap.
Are you serious? That's what I just. Oh my God, we are.
I was stuck on Phantom Zone, and I was like, I'll just look up Scott Bakula.
Yeah. I didn't look him up, but I'm glad that we got there at the same time.
Andrew, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was really hard for me to come up with 5 people in general.
Yeah, it's fair. Let's
Am
move
I
on.
proud of this pick? No, but I do think I could be a good rich person and famous.
Can I get one clarifying point before we move on to our number 4s? Andrew is going back and I assume you're using a time machine of sorts, and you're like, I don't know if you're murdering these people. I don't know what you're doing, but you're replacing them and thinking you can do it better, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not murder, not
quantum
murder.
leaping into their skin itself, and I have to be them.
Right.
You're repeating
As
history.
them. Not even necessarily exactly repeating it, but like, yeah. Let's say broad strokes.
That's not successful.
I could be more successful if those broad strokes are good ones.
And Thomas is
Thomas,
just reaping
what
the
are you
benefits
doing?
of what other people have done.
Thomas
Mine-
is just the idle rich.
Like most of my lists, my criteria changes from 5 to 4 and 4 to 3,
Okay.
3 to 2,
Okay.
and 2 to 1. All right,
It's
get
fair.
over it.
So for some of them, you're going to quantum leap, and for some of them, you're going to kill them and steal their skin.
I think
Okay,
we get
all
too
right.
tied up on the criteria thing. The only criteria that's
The
necessary.
criteria is half the reason I'm
it's
doing
all-
this.
Yeah, I know. It's all memeability, but like the topic could be Halloween candy and we would just have 3 interpretations of what that means. So it's fine.
That's fair.
All right, number 4, and this isn't gonna help me. You talked about how we're obsessed with Pangea, Griffin, and Thomas is wearing a Pangea hat. My number 4 actually is Alfred Wegener, who discovered continental drift and hypothesized that Pangea was a thing. And I genuinely put this on my list before you thought of it. And the reason I put it on my list is because, like, yes, he's like a smart scientist and geologist and whatever. I don't fucking know, meteorologist. I don't know.
I don't think he's a meteorologist.
But like, to me, you just look like the world was mapped centuries before at that point. Like, just look at South Africa and South America and Africa, and they look like they fit together. So, boom, I could have made that hypothesis.
Hey, could you have though? Like without
So-
any?
Do you have current year's knowledge? So of course you could make that inference.
Yeah,
No.
that's a good question.
No, I don't. And I think that you're cheating by saying that you would go back, because if you went back with today's knowledge, yeah, you could successfully replace anyone. Like,
No, you couldn't.
if you just study,
Mm,
if
I
you
If
don't
I
study
went back
history,
and I was like, I want to be General
Disagree.
Patton, do you think I would be able to? I don't know. I know very broad strokes about these people. I don't know his military strategy.
Yeah, but do you have prep time?
yeah, you
I
can
mean,
study.
if Batman gets prep time, I think I should also get prep time.
Point
No,
is,
Batman does.
the point is, the Earth looks like a puzzle, and I could have predicted that.
I understand what you're saying.
You
'cause
look like a
you're-
puzzle.
You love a good puzzle. I just don't know if you went back without your current knowledge, you'd be like, bang, bang, bang. I don't think you can do it. I don't think you could look at
When would it have come up in your life? I mean, I
don't
guess you're
think you
taking
look
over his
at a
life.
hand-drawn map and could put it together.
So here's the point that I understand I would struggle with is I would make the hypothesis, but then I wouldn't know who to bring it to or like what to do. I'd be like just yelling at air and being like, they look like they might fit together, and everyone would be like, okay, shut the fuck up.
You'd just be screaming, "This bitch don't know about Pangea" at every single person you came across, and they'd be like, "You're right, we don't. What is that?"
What, Andrew? When was this? When was he alive?
1912 was when he discovered, estimated 1912 is when he discovered continental drift.
Are we
And
sure
I don't
he's
know.
right?
I don't know if like the study of like tectonic plates and stuff came after that, or if there was
I
stuff
just
leading
never
up to
understood
it.
how we drifted when it's just like a flat thing, you know?
Well, if I discovered it, then I could successfully tell you.
Well, ask him why the Earth's flat. Not a bad pick. I just don't know if you're going back without your current knowledge. I don't know if you would be successful doing this. If you're going back with your current knowledge, totally, yeah, obvious success.
Did you pick this because it happened on January 6th?
No,
Is
and
this all
don't
one big January 6th reference for you?
don't get ahead of my list. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have any January 6th. No,
Oh, okay. Well, it happened on January 6th, so kind of a big day.
not everything's about
historically.
January 6th, Griffin, even though you want it.
A
Why-
lot of things are. A lot of
Every
things are
conversation we
about
have.
January 6th.
All
All
right.
right.
Number 4.
Number 4. This one, I didn't have a whole lot of reasons for it.
Nope.
King Tut, he's Egyptian. I'm Syrian. I gotta imagine we have similarity in appearance. He was dead by 18. I wanted to be dead at 18. That I could have accomplished pretty easily. He didn't really do anything, even though he's like one of the Egyptian pharaohs that we know, or king, but pharaoh that we know the most about. But it's mostly just, I think, because of how young he was and the dying young and having works built about him after his life. Like, in terms of actual things that I have to do to replace him, it's basically like be a cool teenager and then like die at the right time. And I could have done both those things. I like to believe that I was almost meant to do those two things.
I just looked it up. I thought he was even younger than 18. I was like, why would you go back and replace a 12-year-old? I mean, again, yes, I do believe you could successfully go back and die. I do.
To be clear,
I do
Thomas,
believe that about you.
everyone we're talking about does require them to die at some point.
You're picking people.
I have someone who's alive, but we'll get
Fair.
to that.
Okay,
you're
so then our
picking people
criteria.
who died. I mean, William Henry Harrison, not early in life, but like you
He's
picked
pretty old.
someone who died quickly after succeed. Like, I just feel like you're picking people that you know you can be like, I could die like they died.
Yeah, but at least for King Tut, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do the whole thing. I'm going to start at birth. I'm going to do the whole Pharaoh run, and then I'm going to get out while I'm on top.
Yeah, you could
Okay.
definitely
Die
die
fast
like
and
he
live a
died.
gigantic coffin.
You could definitely die like he died. The question is, could you live like he lived? And I don't.
Yes,
And I don't know. I don't. I'm just.
I believe that I could.
I don't know anything about King Tut. I'll be honest. Like, it's just one of those names that you hear about, and I don't think you ever really learn about. I don't do. Should we be learning about him? I don't care. I don't know.
I agree. Like, I knew he died young, and it was a great discovery when they found his body, and that's about all I know.
Yeah, I think that honestly, truthfully, kind of the long and short of King Tut. Look, I imagine he probably had a good time during those 18 years. Could I be wrong about that? Could he be like sickly the entire time and that's why he died young? Yeah, maybe. But I'm going to pretend like he was just getting after it and then like a block of stone fell on him or something. I don't know. I assume it was disease.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't, like I said, I don't know enough about what he did to be able to refute you and say that you couldn't do it. So maybe
You're
you
right.
could.
You don't know enough about it to refute me. I could be King Tut.
Do we think Howard Carter, the archaeologist who found King Tut, was the inspiration for Carter Hall, Hawkman / archaeologist?
When did he find King Tut? Because probably. If it was before like 1950, probably.
Yeah, that's a big question I don't know the answer for.
Yeah, you are next up, so we'd have to circle back to it. I could imagine that being the inspiration. They like to do shit like that.
My number 4, and this is why I was picking at you, Andrew, because if I went back with my current knowledge, I could be successful doing this guy did. If I went back without my current knowledge, absolutely not. Charles Darwin, because I think it'd be just a fun time going to some islands, watching some animals, and be like, hey, you guys want to learn some stuff? Let me tell you about evolution. But if I went
of all
back,
the names to choose for you specifically, Charles Darwin.
Hard.
Tough one for you in particular. You did that to yourself.
This is inspired from me finding my Darwin Awards book recently, which is just...
It's a good one. A good toilet read.
But anyway, if I went back without my current knowledge and was just supposed to be Darwin and succeed as he did, not a shot in hell.
Well, when you described that at first, when you said hang out with animals and tell them about evolution, that it's helped you. That's what I thought you meant, like you were talking to the animals, like, hey,
Sound like
birds,
you're on like Zaboomafoo or something.
Birds, you actually used to be fish. Which I could see you doing if you just had the current knowledge, or like, no, not current knowledge.
At any point, you can see Thomas doing that, as Thomas as well.
Yeah, I think Dr. Dolittle would have been a better pick for you than Charles Darwin.
Not a historical figure, not a real person.
I think Darwin had some cool adventures because I've listened to podcasts about him in general. Lived a pretty cool life, even though, at the time it might not have been cool because he was struggling, financially for a long time, and no one believed him. No one believed him.
We could do that.
But
we
yeah,
could all be Charles Darwin.
In terms of what he ended up accomplishing to this point, I think, again, if I went back with what I know now and maybe give me like a middle school biology book beforehand, I'd be all right.
So here's a question / maybe we'll call it a slight pushback. How do you feel about his role in starting the eugenics movement? Would you change some of your principles around, or would you do it all the same?
If I'm trying to recreate his life, I gotta do what I gotta do.
You gotta do what you gotta do. Butterfly effect.
I'm just him, but I'm living my own free will. We'll probably cut that part out a little bit.
Yeah. Be like, hey, Nazis, like maybe don't.
Yeah, no. I'd probably go different fork in the road.
Sure. You'd be like, hey guys, spend more time talking to fish.
More thinking about like the Galapagos times, hanging out with the tortoise.
Sure. Okay, yeah, no, just a pertinent question, I think.
It's fair. It's a fair question.
All right, Andrew, you're number 3.
Okay, my number 3 is the one that is living on my list, and it is post-2007 J.K. Rowling. Let her write the whole story, and then I can handle the PR from here on out, okay? Like, all I would have to do is collect checks and not piss people off. I think it would be very, very easy, and she makes it very, very difficult. So I'm good at being neither seen nor heard, and she could learn from that.
This feels like a modern Shakespeare pick. But no, when you look at my Google searches for the last 3 hours, it was historical figures, ordinary people in history, average people in history. And J.K. Rowling came up on like a handful of lists for like changing history or like just figures. And I was like, seems like a
little bit of a stretch.
Much. I know it's a stretch, but
yeah.
Yes, I do agree. If you took over for her post writings, yeah, you'd probably be doing fine. I also think she's doing fine too.
She's doing fine too. I think I could do a better job of
Morally,
pissing off less people, which obviously is not her goal, and that's fine.
yeah.
But
No, it's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah. So your goal with this one is kind of just maintain. Do you think that you still? So I guess the question is, you're replacing her post 2007, which I assume is when the last book came out.
yes,
Do you still participate in Cursed Child and the what's it called movies, the Fantastic Beasts movies?
so yes, you asked.
This might be a bigger deal to me than her transphobia.
Yeah,
I'm being honest with you.
Obviously, the trans stuff is like that. That's an easy solution. Just don't mention it. You don't even have to
Just
say
don't.
you don't even have to say
just
you're
don't
pro
be a
trans.
cunt. Just
Don't
be a
do
cunt.
anything. Just
Delete
don't
your
like
Twitter?
fight with random people on Twitter. Easy, done. I can. Well, can I do that? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
I can try. I can try my darndest. But yeah, no, but in terms of the Harry Potter stuff, I do think I could do a better job of like letting like smart screenwriters and smart like people that like know the universe sort of like have creative control a little bit and like be able to guide them in a way that's more that is more like, you know, true to the original story. Like
Oh.
with the Cursed Child stuff, for instance, like I feel like she just like that was a cash grab, and you know it was just unlike the original story at all.
It
in
sounds
terms
like
of,
you would care less about it than she did because you put less work into it.
He actually would be unable to put work into it because he is not a professional writer. So it would honestly, I would agree with you. You would successfully replace her because your lack of talent would actually be a benefit to humanity because you would just leave it as this untouched, beloved franchise. Whereas her, by virtue of having talent, kind of ruined her legacy in a lot of ways, and you would just be happy to have the original legacy.
I disagree because I think somebody would throw enough money at Andrew Rowling and he would ruin it.
I like that he's taking his wife's last
yeah,
name.
no, okay. So I'm not gonna pretend like I wouldn't be greedy and want to cash in and make more like movies and all kinds of stuff like beyond just the original. But I do think that I think I could handle the PR aspect of it just in a better way than J.K. Rowling.
Well, I
do think
I think morally you would handle the PR better and you would not put yourself in the situation she's put herself in. Unfortunately, despite her opinions and situations, she is still successful. But yeah, I agree from a moral standpoint, you could be more successful and still make all that money and live the life without causing as many issues as she has.
Well, here's my one counter. And this is kind of based on something that you said, 2 minutes ago. You said that you would stay off Twitter and not cause fights. And then you immediately regretted when you said that. Look, I don't think that you would be current J.K. Rowling in terms of like her specific issues. But I do think almost inevitably, if you had the influence and the wealth and the fan base of 2007 J.K. Rowling, and Twitter came out, I think, around 2006, 2007. I think I was on it by 2008. I think it's almost inevitable that you end up burning your legacy to the ground no matter what. It's just going to be on a different issue. It's just going to be on a different issue.
I mean,
There's
it
only
is-
one
it
way to
is
find
almost
out.
20
I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Yeah. I do know for sure. I'm pretty confident you do it.
In terms of relating to my Shakespeare pick, I think you could be a successful, rich, famous person without causing problems for yourself.
Yeah. And I think so. I specifically picked J.K. Rowling because since I am a fan of the series to like an extensive degree, like I wouldn't want to ruin it that way. Like
Sure.
So I think I would try my very best to not get into tiffs and, blow things up.
You would release Pottermore, but then you would never come out with the section of Pottermore that's like, yeah, wizards used to just like disappear all their shit. No one asked for this. No one wanted to know this. I just wanted to know like when Slytherin lived.
That's still happening for sure.
Okay, all right. That's still part of the canon. That's something that you think has to be part of the Harry Potter canon. Okay, all right. I think we've talked about J.K. Rowling enough. I want to move on to my number 3, another king, because clearly I have quite a high opinion of myself. And this is much like William Shakespeare, potentially a fictional one and a British one. I'm taking King Arthur.
You know what?
Greatest king of Britain. His wife banged his best friend, pulled a sword out of a rock, hung out with an old dude, died, and people think that he might come back someday. Kind of across the board, I think that I would be able to successfully do all those things. It's unfortunate that I'm recently married and I'm already thinking about my wife banging one of my best friends, which currently we're recording and I have the two of you on both sides of me in this recording, and that's uncomfortable. And the fact that he's ambiguously fictional and he might have just been like a Scottish warlord, that's cool. Like, that doesn't seem like that hard of a job, particularly if I have modern knowledge. They'd be like, we're going to advance in straight lines. And I'd be like, or what if we hit him from the side? And this might come up later as well.
I just feel like you picked the 4 easiest things he did in terms of be a victim of infidelity, hang out with an old guy, and pick up a sword. And we're like, yeah,
He pulled a sword out of a rock.
I could live his life.
I could
I
get
didn't
cheated
say
on.
the
No
most
problem.
difficult people for me to successfully replace.
I could
I
fight
just said
that
historical figures I could successfully. There wasn't like a difficulty modifier.
I just like, I feel like you said I could live his life, but you didn't mention like the wars. Like you did at the end. That's fair. You came back around saying maybe some new tactics.
Some new tactics. And also, you got to imagine a king. How often was he really marching into battle himself? Like, you get it out of your system in your late teens and your early 20s. But like, at a certain point, it's like, hey, Lancelot, when you're done cucking me, go conquer the French.
Yeah, well, so I think this is a good pick, especially because you love a cuck chair. So like, that's all I really have to say. I don't have anything to say about the wars and everything else.
See, it's tough for us that this is such a big part of what King Arthur has become to the modern generation.
It's not a bad pick. It's not a bad pick. I don't know how to say you'd be successful being King Arthur, other than those 4 things you mentioned. Like, I can't say it's a bad pick. I'm also like, would you be a good King Arthur? Would you?
Did you guys ever watch the? I think we may have talked about this on an early episode. The animated, like the cartoon show when we were kids, where it was a New York football team that gets transported back to Camelot and they become the Knights of the Round Table.
I know it was a thing, but I never watched it. No.
It was like designed to sell toys, like a Transformers or something else like that. I think it probably lasted 1 season. That's kind of what I imagine happening. Me and all my friends, not quantum leaping in this instance, but just getting transported back, becoming the Knights of the Round Table, and kind of trying to figure it out as we go.
All right, I'm in.
As Guinevere breaks my heart.
All right, my number 3. This person on my list is someone I don't know much about, but I genuinely think I could do the thing that he did that he is known for. That is Frank Willis. You guys don't know Frank Willis?
I think
Frank Willis
you're going to have to explain Frank Willis to us.
Security guard at the Watergate Hotel who noticed that there was tape over the door jamb in the basement, took it off, and then noticed again sometime later, and then ended up calling the cops, which led to the Watergate scandal. And I do believe that I could be a security guard and notice that door jamb was taped over twice.
This is the first pick that I'm totally in agreement with. You could absolutely do this.
You could notice tape.
I'm not saying. I would say maybe 50% of the time you would notice it, and that's
that still feels kind of high. But I'll give it to him.
I need to notice it twice. That's
one
all.
Out of 3. Yeah, 1 out of 3 times you would notice it. So there is
Hall of Fame numbers.
So there's a significant chance that you would successfully replace. What was his name? Frank Willis.
Frank Willis.
Okay.
The man who brought down a presidency.
Yeah. I like this version of history.
This is a really, really good pick, Thomas, because it requires so little of you and you have so little to give that you would be able to do this. I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't notice the tape. I would not be, unless I had Frank Willis's eyes. But with my eyes, I wouldn't be able to do it. You, however, you could successfully do this.
Yeah, and this is not to belittle Frank Willis. He's probably a great guy. Maybe. I don't know. But I could have
We're
done...
not saying these are his heights. We're saying you could do this thing that he did.
This thing that he did, I could
Yeah.
successfully replace him in doing.
Yeah.
I do think this is a much better pick for Thomas than for Griffin, because Griffin, yes, your eyes are bad. You wouldn't notice the tape, but even if you did, then you would like want to like continue breaking this scandal by yourself and like being like the hero beyond
like,
hero. Whereas Thomas
Look
would just
at me,
be like,
I have a sword from a stone.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
this who
Thomas
you
would just
think
be like
I am?
tape and then pass it on to the actual law enforcement and let the process play out like it should.
I'm going to
glad
take
to
this as the
know.
compliment that I think it was intended as.
I'm glad to know what Andrew thinks of us.
Yeah, he thinks you're useless, and he thinks that I'm selfishly conceited and overly arrogant. I mean, I guess that we all kind of know
not
that.
useless. I just would be like, hey, that's not my job. Let someone else do it.
Yeah, he
You're
minds his
fully-
own business.
In a very, very small, very specific capacity, like a stapler. You're the stapler of people.
And when you need me, you can't find me. I'm usually empty.
Okay.
I don't want to. I don't
Right,
want to
good
think
pick.
of that. Yeah, good one, man. Really, really good one.
My number 2 is Pablo Picasso.
Phew.
I thought about different artists, and I just wanted to piss off a lot of the artsy community, our artsy following, as a big subgroup of the List Night fan base.
Is it?
And I know that presumably Picasso was talented, but I'm just going to pretend like he wasn't. And, I can draw triangles and squares and faces that don't look correct. I do that pretty often. So I could easily just do what he did. And I, don't regret saying that.
So I guess my first question for this one is: Are you Pablo Picasso throughout, or are you jumping in after, kind of like with William Shakespeare, after he's already become a prolific artist? Also, as I understand it, Pablo Picasso largely minimized during his actual life and kind of became very famous and beloved after his death, but I might be wrong.
This is not one of those picks where I'm saying he did all the art and then I'm just coming in to reap the benefits. I'm doing the art. Okay.
There's very few benefits. He killed himself pretty young.
Yeah. So wait, what? Picasso did?
Yeah.
No.
No, you're thinking
Picasso
of
didn't kill himself?
you're thinking of your guy.
He was like 90 years old.
Yeah, Picasso died in like
Who am I thinking of?
1972 or
I
something.
don't know. He died in 1973 and was born in 1881.
Who am I thinking of? What's his name?
The
You guys
Starry
know
Night
this.
guy. What's
Yeah.
Van Gogh? Vincent Van Gogh.
Van Gogh, that's who I'm thinking of. Okay, yeah. Pablo Picasso, yeah, sure, all right. Yeah, you just got to get really experimental in your later years, and then you could be Picasso. That'd be fine.
Well, I'm getting
still be able to
experimental
enjoy
in
it?
my,
Oh,
in my
okay,
later
that's
years.
not
I'm gonna get
what
real
I-
weird with it.
I think we're talking about different things.
Andrew, here's going to be my pushback. He's listed as a painter and a sculptor. Can you sculpt?
A lot of dick pottery. That's what Andrew be making.
Wait,
Lot of
so what's the
dildos.
pushback on the painting or the sculpting?
The sculpting. Actually, the painting too. Can you
Really,
draw?
it's both.
Can you
it's both.
draw triangles? Yes. Can you paint them?
They say triangles.
I don't know if you can.
I choose not to answer that.
Anyway, Pablo Picasso was a consideration for me, and then I was like, unlike you, who said I can do that, I said I can't do that, even if I don't think his art is.
I
The
say a lot of
hardest
things on
level
this
of art.
podcast. I say a lot of things, and I mean some of them. So
Well, I understand this pick more than if you'd picked a famous painter who painted like people, because yeah, you wouldn't be able to do that. I don't think you could do it, but I get the pick.
I'm glad you didn't choose like Da Vinci or something like that, because that guy did so many fucking things that there's just no chance that you
no,
would
he
have been
was
able
talented. I'm talking about an untalented artist like Picasso.
Wow, you really hate art people.
to be. Man, if there's a Pablo Picasso Foundation, I'm going to send them clips. I'm going to be like, so first off, one of us thinks Van Gogh and Picasso are the same guy. Second off, not talented. We're pretty sure we could replace him. Yeah, I mean, I think good pick.
I'm surprised about how strong you feel about Picasso, Andrew. I
was-
didn't know
yeah.
this about you.
This
I've never
was
heard
a
someone
night
be
and
like, yeah,
day-
not talented, just draw triangles. And also, I do think you could draw triangles. They're probably the easiest shape to draw.
Hey,
It doesn't help my case that my last pick is one of the most well respected artists of the 20th century, and Thomas's last pick was a guy who saw duct tape
Whoa. Maybe it was Scotch tape. It could have been clear.
Could have been masking tape.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we don't know what kind of tape it was, Andrew. You're being really reductive right now.
I see all kinds of tapes.
In a lot of ways, Andrew, you're
reductive.
being
Sound like
transphobic.
that.
Being a real JK right now.
Well, then my picks are even better.
Good old Andrew Rowling. All right. Jesus Christ. My number 2 pick. I did this for the fight one. It's not going to be the same person, but I'm going to stay in the conservative manosphere. I'd go back and I think I could very successfully, maybe too successfully, replace Rush Limbaugh, one of the fathers of conservative radio and conservative, I'm not going to say alt-right, but conservative aggro-right talk in this country. Because, again, kind of like I said about William Henry Harrison with the longest inaugural speech of all time, basically all you need to do is be able to talk forever and be just the biggest fucking douche that the world has ever seen. And during the era of AM radio, you could be on for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, and have tens of millions of people listening to you. I could very easily do that. If I'm just like trying to replace somebody and I don't give a fuck about my morals at all, I think I could probably do it better than him. Because he was a fat bitch and he deservedly died of cancer.
You did answer my one question. My clarification question was like, so you're just doing what he did and you think you could do it better?
I think knowing what I know about him, I'd probably avoid some of his controversies.
But so like you could replace him and not do the exact same and not get caught. You could replace him and do what he did, but better.
Yes. Yeah, I think I could do it better. Particularly if before quantum leaping into his body, I spent like 10 to 20 minutes on Wikipedia being like, okay, so this is something that lost him a bunch of sponsors. Do like 60% of this. Don't do the thing that gets you all the spot. Like, there was a woman that he just like berated in the 2000s, is that the 2000s or the 90s, for wanting female contraceptives. And he went after her so hard that he lost like tens of millions of dollars in sponsors. Don't do that. Do everything else evil that you're doing, but just like don't do the thing where you call a Georgetown student a prostitute because she wants to be able to take the pill for, hormonal balance during her period.
Yeah. Like have outrage towards like the entire group, but don't get too specific on individual people and like target.
Yeah, and then you never have that like downturn in your platform towards the last few years of your life where like the only people that are listening to you are the worst people on earth. You're still getting more of the, just kind of Dumbo conservatives as opposed to the real, I want to light the Capitol on fire conservatives, arguably dying richer than Curtin Rush did.
This is a good pick. Yeah, I could see you doing this. Like you love the sound of your own voice and you love to, I don't know, piss people off, I guess. I don't know. Like, go ahead, Tom.
Do I think you could be a right-wing radio talk person? Host? I don't know. Yes.
Well, this is
the pick. Boring.
This pick is easily like prove it. Like you could do it today. You could do it tomorrow. Start.
Well, no. In this, I have to be doing it as Rush Limbaugh. I do not want to do it as Griffin Queen. I very, very, very much do not want to do it as me. I want to do it as me, wearing his skin, living in his house, and having his life.
You can create a stage name and just do it. I feel like Charlie when they're stuck in the pool. I'm like, oh, do a backflip.
Sounds like a stage name.
Do one.
Yes, I think you could successfully do it. So yeah, whatever. My number 2.
Universal approval is what I'm looking for in my Rush Limbaugh era.
My number 2 is Gary Dahl or Dale. Don't know how to say it. D-A.
Related to Rolled?
No.
Okay. That's all I
believe I could do what he did in 1975 and become a millionaire by inventing the pet rock.
That's good.
Genuinely think I could do that. Now, he didn't have a lot of successes after that, and I don't need to because all I want to do is become a millionaire in the 70s for my pet rock.
It's a good time to be a millionaire, if we're being honest. Good time to be a millionaire.
This pick feels very similar to my Pangea pick, which ironically both about rocks. But like that, if you had today's knowledge, absolutely, just recreate the packaging, everything, like done. But if you were just living in 1975 and that never occurred, like I don't even think that you would never even think people would be this stupid that this is going to catch on. Like you wouldn't see a
Well,
rock.
an
on the ground.
idea that good is going to catch on with people at some point. Like there's no way the pet rock never becomes a thing.
To Andrew's point, I don't think I could write a 36-page care manual like he did. So to your point, yes. If I went back with no knowledge of the pet rock, maybe I come up with the pet rock just by coincidence. Do I write that much?
Dude, there was so much lead in their pipes and their walls back then. Like a lot of things just make so much sense when you remember that they were just surrounded at all times by lead.
I forget exactly what it was, but he tried to recreate it like with like a sand farm or something like that. And like obviously lightning didn't strike twice, but
yeah,
he tried.
The sequel is so rarely better.
Anyway, yeah, Gary, I'm gonna go with Dahl.
I think it's Dahl.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's pronounced Dahl.
I'm gonna go with Dahl.
It's Dahl.
Dahl.
Yeah, then it's almost definitely Dahl. If his last name is pronounced Dale, fuck him. Fuck his family. Fuck his dad.
Fuck his pet rock.
Yeah, Lancelot will get after it.
All right.
Okay, my number one is kind of a cop out, and you guys are gonna hate me for it. I kind of hate me for it. I just put almost any king or queen.
That's the biggest guy. I named two specific kings.
Yep, I didn't even, I had a list of some, and I just didn't pick any of them because the more I thought about it, they're largely figureheads. Their advisors kind of do everything for them. All they have to do is be a prick and sit on a throne and collect money. And I could do that. Like, I'm not saying I could do it like super well, but I think I could do it. I could successfully replace some of the other fuckwads that were monarchs. So I could do it.
But here's my thing. You're saying that all kings and queens in history really didn't do anything. They just were.
I said almost any king or queen.
Okay,
there was
but
statistically, that probably does mean like the majority of them probably were useless. That's probably
you're not saying like modern time Queen, R.I.P. Queen Elizabeth. You could have replaced and done nothing. You're talking like
definitely not
even historical ones because like
King Arthur.
Sure.
King Tut.
King Tut.
Okay, so there's some kings that obviously like led armies and like had very like concrete, like they were very involved in concrete plans to build empires and stuff. Those are the ones I'm excluding because I don't want to have to think or do anything. But that person's son and grandson and great-grandson and great-great-grandson just sat there on the throne and did very, very little. And that's most monarchies is like a handful of them actually did something, but all the in-betweeners, that's my lane.
How do you feel about all the incest you'd be engaging in?
They could successfully do it. Yeah. But so any monarch that was given a throne, like didn't win a throne, was given a throne.
You're not a conqueror, a recipient.
This is a dumb pick. This should have been like your number 5. This is awful. Terrible. Okay.
Yeah, this is, I don't know that I don't hate it because I had 2 kings on my list, but this is, you guys have made fun of me for this before. This is kind of like wishing for more wishes. Like, you're not picking somebody. You're picking like tens of thousands of people throughout history, if not more. It's lazy. It's lazy.
At the end of the day, do I think you could be a rich person in charge?
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No.
Basically, it's like your Shakespeare pick plus in charge.
Okay, that's fair. You know what? That's a good point. This is a really good pick because it validates my number 5.
The only reason I don't like my own pick
is
because I wasn't specific enough to name an actual person. But that's the only reason. I think in general,
can you even
name
a king or queen? Can you even name one? You can't. See?
No.
Yeah. No. Look, it's not terrible. Do I think that you dodged the prompt? And you did tell us before you said this. You're like, you guys are going to push back, and I don't like this, and you don't like this, and no one's going to like this. You're right. It is not a good pick, but it has the idea of a good pick. And if you had said King Tut or King Arthur, it would have been a good pick. Okay, my number 1. This one's just for you, Andrew. And I'm so surprised you didn't say this. George Washington.
Do it.
Especially someone that I do think you do because you know what he did.
No, I don't. I know not enough.
Here's what he did. He was born wealthy, a plantation owner. I mean, here's the thing that you can't do. He was about 6'3", if it's to be believed. That, while I have said factually before that you have the spirit of a 6'3" man, you do not have the stature of a 6'3" man. So this is why I could do it and you cannot, because you're a small little man. He wasn't a great commander. If you actually look through George Washington's like battle record, like he won battles both with the British military and the American military during the Revolution, but he wasn't actually like the central force for any of the major battles that occurred during the Revolution. His military career is kind of just like very bog standard. I can't imagine it was that difficult if you were born wealthy to have a very standard military career. And he's kind of, I'm not going to say he's like the definition of right place, right time, because obviously like he's George Washington and we deify him in a very specific way. But could a lot of people, if they were to go back with today's knowledge, potentially be like pull off the same stuff that George Washington did for kind of the same reasons that I said for King Arthur, where it's like, hey, like maybe let's just not march forward into each other and like fewest deaths wins. Like, yeah, I think it wouldn't be all that difficult to replace George Washington. And you just kind of have to dress up like a feminine tall woman all the time and have jacked up teeth.
I do
Like,
think
I
you
could do
could
that.
dress up like him, but
Yeah, absolutely.
I do have
Absolutely.
pushback on this, and I'm not trying to deify him like anymore because I agree he's a flawed person and he's treated like a god, which I don't like. But there's two things that don't scream you to me that when I get George Washington. First of all, like even though you're saying like a lot of people could have done what he did in his position, then why like in the Continental Congress and all of like, you know, all the founding fathers basically just knew like and didn't really even argue with amongst each other to any real significant degree that he was going to be the president. Like it was just sort of
Can I
like,
answer your question on that one?
Yeah.
Because he was the tallest.
Okay.
okay.
I genuinely think it's because he was the tallest.
And then number two, and more
I will believe that until the day I die.
You could be right about that. I mean, yeah, the founding fathers were probably stupid. I'll give you that. But number two, and more importantly, giving up power after 2 terms. Does that sound like a Griffin Queen move?
That was going to be my point.
And here's what I'm going to say. Does it sound like a Griffin Queen move? No, it does not. But if I am aware already that it is better for my legacy to have given up power, then I would do it specifically, not out of any sense of like altruism, but out of a different sense of selfishness and a different sense of conceit. Giving up power for me is actually the more arrogant choice.
I had 2 pushbacks. One was the same as Andrew's second.
That's so tough for me. That's so tough for me that you guys have that pushback.
Well, 2 other people on your list were kings.
Well, yeah, and truthfully, you know, George Washington, next best thing.
50%,
So we could say
50%.
2.75% of my list was king.
50% of your rest of your list were king. So yes, we
Yeah.
think you would want to make Washington king. My other pushback, and you mentioned his jacked up teeth. The amount of pain he was supposedly in for those teeth, I don't know if you got that in you, man. I don't have that in me.
So that is like, this is the downside to the quantum leap as opposed to the time machine and wearing his skin. Because if I had the time machine and wearing his skin through some sort of technology, I'm not skinning him or something like that, then I would just bring like a bunch of like Advil with me, which they did not have back then. I wouldn't bring a dentist or anything like that because then you're bringing someone else and then it gets messy because then he'd be like a rival. But yeah, you just bring like a bunch of Advil. But I can't do that with the quantum leap. So yeah, you have to kind of I would have to deal with the pain. I think I could do that.
get this pick. I don't know my level of belief of your successfulness in terms of repeating his successes.
I've given my pushback. It's fine. Like I understand why you picked it. I just don't necessarily agree that you could successfully replace him. But looking through my list, I realized that I think I'm just lazy. Like most of my replacements, I don't have to do very much. This I feel like is a lot of work. You got to do a lot of things. As George Washington.
I like that you said you don't necessarily think that I could successfully be as successful as him, which is like actually very complimentary. That you're not like, yeah, full up. You would do a terrible job at that. You're like, yeah, I think you wouldn't do a great job.
If you
like a good job's pretty good.
If you went back to your knowledge.
Right. With your knowledge now, you'd be like the genius of all geniuses. So it's fine.
We're overrating.
You would
me a little
probably
bit.
be burned at the stake for being like a asshole.
Yeah, I would just be like, man, you guys are really transphobic, and they'd be like, none of these words mean anything to us. Be like, well, you all look like.
Real.
Yeah.
All right. My number 1, and this is a crossover from a previous list.
Rat race?
Figures I'd like to fight. Because, and this is not Griffin's criteria, because I don't want to go back and do what he did to the successful point. I want to do it better from modern views. Christopher Columbus. I believe I could go back. I would not support genocide. And
Huge.
the fact that I used to play lacrosse, I could then bring that to the Native Americans. Like, I already know how to play. They would teach me their ways. And I would be like an amazing all-star on like the Native American lacrosse teams of that time. So I think I could do that.
So let me just make sure that I'm fully getting my hands around this one. You're going back as Christopher Columbus
Just
so that
bring
you
America.
can, you're still doing that,
Yeah.
but with the express intent of being a dwarf among midgets at the game of lacrosse.
No, the intent of stopping a genocide.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You seem
And
less
then,
focused on
yes,
that part
I
than the
would. I
lacrosse.
want to be a Pro Bowl selection on the Native American lacrosse teams.
Do you think they had Pro Bowl selection?
They might have called it something different.
Okay.
I'm
All right, look, that was my pushback.
I'm trying to rack my brain of how this version of history plays out. I of just like you in the 15th century being like, "Hey guys, I am anti-genocide, and we are gonna like you're just gonna try to like actually do the Thanksgiving thing that we learned about with the
That's exactly.
like
Pilgrims
you're
and the,
actually
Native
gonna be like
Americans.
sit down and let's have turkey and then let's play a lot of lacrosse."
Be like,
Here's
hey
one
guys,
thing I'll say:
anti-genocide,
anti-genocide, pro-lax. As many are. I think this would keep lacrosse from being the whitest sport of all time. I think we would have a very, very different 2020 representation in lacrosse.
It's a win for everyone, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, not for the white boys who have made their lives on being halfway decent at lacrosse, but yeah, for everyone else, I agree.
I am for this as long as my company then would give me Albert Day off, because they don't give me Columbus Day off, and it pisses me off.
He is still named Christopher Columbus.
I don't think so. I think he's replacing Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, it's Christopher. It's actually Christopher Lacrosse. I lost it. I didn't have it.
All right.
Christopher Columbus Rowling.
I didn't have it.
The Shakespeare of our time.
Yeah, right.
Think
Yeah, great job there, Shakespeare.
it's a great thing. You both agree.
No,
we all
look,
heard it. We all heard it.
It's a fun pick. I don't know what I'm going to say. It's a great pick. If you do manage to avert a genocide, I will tell you right now, I don't think you're going to be able to successfully avert a genocide. I think that was going to happen regardless.
Because I've essentially gotten rid of your number one, because who needs George Washington? I've changed history. So,
You have changed history. Yeah. Yeah. Rush Limbaugh also. You would have gotten rid of my number two as well.
You would have gotten rid of the tape guy.
And William Henry Harrison. Yeah. No tape guy. Tape guy's not doing anything.
Pet rocks, though.
Whatever his name was, William Taft or whatever, or something Dahl, Roald Dahl. Henry Dahl.
Gary
Dahl. I was close. I was getting there. Yeah.
Yeah, great list, Thomas. Thank you, guys.
All right. Yeah. No, decent list. Andrew, let's get that recap.
Yes.
My number 5 is William Henry Harrison. Number 4, Alfred Wegener, who discovered continental drift and hypothesized about Pangea. Number 3, J.K. Rowling. Well, J.K. Rowling post 2007, post her actually writing the books. Number 2, Pablo Picasso. And number 1, almost any king or queen, the ones that didn't actually do much.
Yeah, I like that Pangea guy got like in another paragraph description, and everyone else was just like, they are who they are.
Alfred Wegener, nobody knows that.
I mean, someone does. I don't know. Okay, my number 5, William Henry Harrison, but better than Andrew's version of William Henry Harrison. My number 4, King Tut. My number 3, King Arthur. He was the king in Camelot, and he had the Knights of the Round Table, and he pulled the sword from the stone. I don't know if anyone knows who that is. Number 2, Rush Limbaugh, and then number 1, the first president of the United States, George Washington.
I'm shocked Jesus Christ was not on your list.
He was a genuine thought, but I don't want to be the Jesus guy.
You already are. Number 5, William Shakespeare, but post writings. I want the success and the fame. Number 4, Charles Darwin. That is hard. 3, Frank Willis, the security guard of the Watergate Hotel. 2, Gary Dahl, inventing pet rocks. And 1, Christopher Columbus, the Laxbro extraordinaire.
Oh my God, Charles Darwin gives you so much trouble.
It's the R's and the L's and the W.
I know.
The 3.
That's why it's insane that you chose it.
all 15 of those picks, the only one that's even remotely realistic is the security guard pick. So I think Thomas won just because of that.
I think William Henry Harrison's a pretty good pick, being honest. I think 2 out of 3 of us would agree on William Henry Harrison. Yeah, good list. We all very clearly went in different directions with this, even though we did end up having some that ended up being relatively similar, or in 2 cases the same. Any honorable mentions or anything that you guys wanted to bring up? I don't have any. This is a tight 5.
The only one I had was Isaac Newton, but I thought better because he's like arguably the most like important like scientist and thinker of all time, and I just couldn't do that. I was just gonna go for like a funny route with it and be like, the apple that hit him was magical and gave him all the powers, and it could give it to me. So, but no, I'm glad I didn't go in that direction.
Newton crossed my list because I wasn't going to say magic, but I was going to say an apple can hit my head. Like I can do that.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, I didn't have it. I struggled because many people on your guys' list, I could not have done what they did. So
I disagree.
I know.
I think you could have, buddy. I believe in you. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I did think about Van Gogh, even though I couldn't remember his name between him and Pablo Picasso. I thought about Van Gogh, but I was like, I don't want my entire list to be me dying young or killing myself. Like then it's just kind of whack.
Sad.
I talked about William Shakespeare. That is one that I thought about. I did think about Jesus Christ a little bit. I tried to think about like other biblical figures, being like anybody that was like ambiguously real, like a Moses or a Noah or something like that. But again, wasn't really what I was going for. But good. No, good stuff. Glad we did it. We will be back next week with Modi back on the show. If you're still here, we appreciate you being here. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share with your friends, share with your family. Send us lists if you have any that you'd like us to do. If there's anything that you think would be a fun list, you can comment it on YouTube. You can hit us up on Twitter or on Instagram. We're on TikTok. All of the links to all of our different platforms are available in the descriptions of any of our pages. So if you're on Twitter, you can find Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you can find Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or Spotify or anything else. Yeah, we're back every episode, every Wednesday. We will see you next time. I don't know where my mouse is.